Price, thank you for your speech. And now we will have a short Q&A because we want to finish in time as it is scheduled. So the first question is about financial services. You have mentioned something about it. Do you think that this exit, the Brexit, could result in London ceasing to be the financial center of Europe as other countries like France or Germany present themselves as safer options?
Does that? Oh, it does work. I tend to find that people judge things over too short a time frame. I think we'll know the answer to that question in probably 30 years' time. For now, we believe that London will continue to be a global financial centre. It has unique advantages. It straddles east and west. It has a very complex infrastructure which supports the financial institutions, so law firms, etc. We believe that the businesses that headquarter in the UK are genuinely international businesses. They trade with Europe, but also they trade with the East and they trade with the West. And also the UK government will do all it can to support the City of London. We recognise the importance of the city both for the UK economy and also as a powerhouse for Europe and European investment as well. So, as I said in my speech, I believe that we understand all the issues. We're confident about the support that we can give to the city. And we do think for a whole host of structural reasons, because that's where talent resides, because of our universities, because of the infrastructure that exists today, the City of London will continue to be a global financial powerhouse and centre.
Okay. Speaking about Spanish people living in the UK, do you think that the Spanish immigrants currently working and living in the UK should be worried with the negotiations about the exit? What do you think that will happen to their working conditions and status?
Well, I think the first thing to say is that Spanish citizens have made a huge contribution to the UK's economy. I think last year Spain had the third highest number of people come to work and live in the UK. And so they've been a vital part of building our economy and our economic success. The Prime Minister's been really clear about this. What she said is it is her hope and her desire that all EU citizens currently living and working in the UK will continue to do so. But she has said she cannot make that decision unilaterally. It has to be a decision that she agrees with the EU. And also she said that reciprocally there are 1.2 million Brits that live in Europe, about a quarter of them here in Spain. And so what she said is that that's what she would like, but it will be part of the conversation that we have once Article 50 is triggered.
Okay, well, as you said, there are 300,000 British nationals living in Spain, millions of tourists, as you mentioned earlier. Some media reports have revealed that the EU is considering a plan to allow Brits to stay as EU citizens. As Minister of the UK, do you think it makes sense for these people who want to keep their rights as EU citizens? That's the question. Understand?
No, I've missed that.
Do you think it makes sense?
Yeah, sorry. Ask me the question again. I'll see if I can get it.
As Minister of the UK,
the ambassador might have caught it.
Yeah, sorry. As Minister of the UK, do you think it makes sense for these British nationals who are living in Spain that want to keep their rights as EU citizens? Do you think it's all right for them to be British and at the same time European citizen and keep both nationalities?
Well, I'd go back to my previous answer. What I would say is that the Prime Minister has said that it is her hope and desire that EU nationals currently living and working in the UK continue to do so. Okay. But she needs to agree that with the EU, and there needs to obviously be something reciprocal about UK citizens living in Europe. So that's what we would like, but it will be part of the discussion.
Okay. So speaking about global trade, with the new American President-elect, Mr. Trump,
yes,
in office next month of January, It seems that there are some threats in the future for the free trade in the world. I don't know if you agree with that. He wants the US to leave NAFTA, the North America Free Trade Agreement, and doesn't want to join TTIP. He also wants to tax foreign products and set tariffs to the American companies that are making products abroad. At least that's what he said. What are your thoughts about this new way of making policy on trade? What is your opinion about Mr. Trump and his new trade policy?
Well, I mean, clearly, President-elect Trump is a very, very successful businessman. And as a businessman, I know that you have to be pragmatic in what you do. And so rather than speculate about what he may or he may not do, I think we have to wait for the president to come into office and start enacting policy. And I think he will do so in a thoughtful and considered way. It's clear that he's bringing in a lot of independently minded advisors who have a considerable amount of business and other experience. And I think that he will debate and discuss with them what is the best policy. So I think it's too early to call what may or may not happen. We don't have to wait long now. 20th of January is the inauguration. And then after that, we'll see what happens. I think that on your more general point, and I said in my few words, that there is a growing protectionist sentiment everywhere in the world. The greatest irony for me is that every communist country I visit is desperate for free trade and for bringing down barriers. And every developed democracy I visit wants to be more protectionist. And it's almost as though the world has turned on its head. And yet what we know, as I said earlier, is that free trade lifts living standards. I do think that there are some flaws in the current capitalist economic model we operate in, and we've seen many people protest against that in the streets, against CETA and against TTIP, because of the damage they think that's done by global corporations. So I think we have to be mindful of how people see globalization. But the reality is, the facts tell us that people are lifted out of poverty through free trade. We improve choice for customers. We improve pricing for customers. We improve innovation. Companies that export are more resilient, more profitable. You know, we know all these things. And so to have a backlash against a system that seems to be leaving some people behind, which is understandable, should not stop us arguing for free trade. And Marisa and I talked about this yesterday. And we do believe that the case for free trade has to be made over and over and over again. It isn't, at the moment, I think, a popular thing to talk about in many places, but it is the right thing to talk about.
Okay, another question. Do you feel happy of being released from EU regulations from Brussels after the exit? As many of the British people used to find them rigid or absurd, according to the polls. Honestly, do you feel happy of being released of these European regulations after the exit? Be honest if you can.
Gosh, we've got some tricky customers in the audience today. Again, what I would say is we need to take a 5 and 10 year view. So the Prime Minister has announced the Great Repeal Bill. What we'll be doing is looking at all EU regulation, keeping those bits of regulation that we think are going to work well for the UK economy and UK people, and repealing those which obviously work less well for whatever reason. And there were three main themes that the Prime Minister drew out from the referendum decision. One was about controlling migration, not stopping migration, controlling migration. The second was about Parliament and the UK judiciary having sovereignty. And the third was about wanting to continue a strong economic relationship, not just with the EU, but with the rest of the world. So those were the things that she talked about. And that's what we're working through at the moment. Time will tell where we get to in terms of UK regulation, how businesses want to trade. And the main thing that we're doing now is talking to lots of businesses and lots of people about what system is going to work best.
So, yes, well, we have to finish because it's time. But a last question is a bit different, and I would like to make it personal. I can't resist to do it. You have a remarkable past as a successful businessman. You can boast an excellent track record as the managing director of a retail company, White Rose. Now you're in office as Minister of State for Trade. So the question is why the change? I guess it's not the money. Just kidding. In our country, it would be difficult to find a case like yours. So.
Well, I know you'll find this all hard to believe, but I was 55 in March. 55 is the first time you can retire from the John Lewis Partnership with a pension. So I qualified for my John Lewis pension. And the partnership is an amazingly generous organisation. It's owned by all the people that work in it. And so I decided that having run Waitrose for 10 years, I needed to do something else. And so I saw the then Prime Minister David Cameron and George Osborne, and I said that if I could, I'd like to do some public service for the country. I was appointed to the Cabinet Office Board. I was already the Deputy Chairman of Channel 4, which is one of our state-owned TV companies. And then in the February of this year, David Cameron asked me in and said, I know that you'd like to serve, how would you like to do this job? And I said I would be honoured and delighted to do that for the UK. Trade ministers, I was joking with Amy last night, he did 5 years as trade minister. I think he's the longest serving trade minister in the world. Normally, times in office are much shorter for trade ministers because you travel the world. Marisa, I hope you managed to do a good long stint. And so I said, look, for as long as you want me to do the job, I'm delighted to do the job. So that's how I ended up here. I didn't think it was going to be this much of an interesting time.
You're enjoying.
I'm enjoying it, not in a ha-ha funny kind of way, but in a it's mentally stimulating, and there's lots going on of huge interest. And what drives me, the thing that I feel most strongly about, and I said it in my speech, and I'll end on this because I know time's short, I do very strongly believe that business is a force for good, and we can only have the societies we want if business flourishes. Because in the UK, 75% of taxes that go to the Exchequer come directly from business or are collected by business. And therefore, the stronger and the more successful your business sector, the better your public services, the better your schools, the better your hospitals, the better your infrastructure. And therefore, making sure that people understand that link, making sure that people really appreciate business for what it brings to our country, I saw as being a role that I was delighted to take on and to do. It's why in this Europe debate, what I don't want us to forget is any disruption in trade for Europe will be bad for European consumers. It will increase prices, it will affect GDP, it will take money out of treasury coffers. And I think that's a bad thing. Now, I understand that the debate that's going on is both a political debate and an economic debate. I only hope that people, as I said when I talked earlier, use common sense when they're thinking about what's in the best interest of their citizens, the people that live and work in their countries. And how do we ensure that we get a smooth transition, that we avoid a cliff edge? So that's why I'm now really motivated to make sure that we listen to business, that we understand what the commercial and economic consequences are of not getting to a very measured place with a smooth transition, with avoiding a cliff edge, all the things you've heard from the UK. But at the same time, what we do is we continue to promote the environment for business to flourish. Because if business flourishes, our economies and our societies are stronger, not just in developed countries, but also in developing countries.
So thank you very much. It's time to finish. Thank you for your presence, and thank you for your speech and your answers. To sum up, we still don't know precisely what's going to happen with Brexit in the months to come. Without any doubt, and leaving aside the reasonable differences between both sides, common sense may eventually prevail. Beyond this final deal, whatever it might be, Spain and the UK will remain as good partners, both in trade and politics, and of course as good friends. Well, it's been a wonderful meeting, Lord Price. Thank you for coming, and I look forward to having you here again in the not too distant future. Thank you very much.